If you're interested in what I look like in real life, then make sure you check out my Instagram at Joe the Insomniak. I work for a small technical consulting firm. We have about 10 employees and 2 owners. Most of us are usually on site with clients full time. In some cases though, we have in-house work jobs that require us to go and work from the home office. My last gig ended and I had to go to the home office. Home office is a gorgeous, completely updated building 50 miles out from the city in a small farm country set about a mile back on a huge hill, with a long driveway, which is the only way in and out. The building is mostly glass, and parking is right behind the building, so I can literally turn around and see where my car is from where I sit. The office overlooks a driveway, so you can see anyone driving up, and mostly delivery guys. At first, it was really peaceful being out here. I'm an early bird, so it was a pleasant drive out in farm country. I didn't have to lock my car doors like I did when I worked downtown. I could gaze out my window at gorgeous green fields, but honestly, it got lonely, which is why when UPS would show up with a package, I'd jump up to meet the delivery guy. Point being, I'm hyper aware of who's there. Some days, I would be the only person in the office. Some days there are 3 or 4 other co-workers in between assignments or working on short in-house work. One morning, it was just me and the other co-worker here. This particular co-worker and I would walk down the long driveway and back once a day to get some steps in. We did this particular morning and came back into the building. A few minutes later, he looks over at me and says, "Look at our cars." Now we had only just walked past our cars a few minutes prior. Now all of our doors to our vehicles were open. All 4 doors on each of our vehicles. I hadn't heard a thing. No one had come up to us. The nearest farm was 12 miles away, and my co-worker certainly hadn't done it. He was sitting 10 feet away from me the entire time. Someone had walked through miles upon miles of cornfields just to mess with our cars? And leave, not even take anything. Heck, my co-worker even had his iPad on the front seat. We looked around, closed the doors, locking them, and went back inside the building. I have this horrible feeling when I'm alone in there now. It just doesn't make sense to me. I've never experienced anything like this. This happened to me about a week ago. I found a summer job at our local supermarket, and about 2 weeks in, I got asked to work late shift. I accepted since I was in need of money and never slept early. Everything was fine and dandy until about 3 AM, when a shirtless, scared up guy came in. After lingering around the store for a while, he quickly came up to the counter, making instant eye contact with me, and as I was about to ask him if he needed any help, he whispers, "Don't you dare move." I didn't answer him at first, so I asked him if he can repeat. At that point, he got agitated and yelled, "Don't make another sound or I'll cut you up, okay?" In a swift motion, he vaulted over the counter going to the alcohol section, tried to grab a bottle of whiskey to hit me with, but thankfully, the owner hid a baseball bat under the counter. The moment he turned his back on me, I whack him full force in his knee. He winces in pain trying to get up. I winded my bat again, acting like I'm gonna hit him, just to see him pull out a homemade shiv of sort. I let him get up. The moment he got up, he swung at me, lightly lacerating my wrists. I push him back with my baseball bat and he ran for the door and got out. The other day, I called the police showing them the security footage, but they haven't contacted me since. I think it's safe to say that I won't be working the late shift again for a long time. I'm just really glad that guy didn't cut an artery or something. If I wasn't so aware and didn't have the baseball bat, I know the situation could have ended in a far worse fashion. A few years ago, during what was probably the darkest period in my life, I worked overnights at a local Walmart 6 days a week. I would spend 9 PM to 7 AM stocking anything from fishing lures to makeup. I've never been to a more depressing environment. Everyone was really apathetic and too caught up in their own depressing lives to care about anyone else, including the managers. Walmarts have a generally wild, weird vibe to them anyway, but this was a 24-hour supercenter in rural Western Virginia, so you can imagine the characters, the meth and opioid addicts mostly, that would show up throughout the night. We had no security guards, and from what I've come to understand, a lot of cameras haven't worked properly in a while. Being one of the few young female overnight stalkers, I've encountered my fair share of unwanted advances, but the one who took the cake was the guy who showed up every time I went outside for a smoking break, regardless of the time. 2 AM, 4 AM, 6, doesn't matter. The dude would appear around the corner, trying to strike up a conversation within seconds of me stopping outside. It didn't matter what entrance I used, they're always there. At first, I assumed he worked there. I mean, why else would someone voluntarily lurk around a crappy Walmart this late? Pretty much everyone on the night shift during their 2 nightly 50 minutes breaks wouldn't encounter him. Maybe the timing's a coincidence, but no. I came to find out he doesn't even work there, even though he often wore a dark blue t-shirt like that of an overnight employee. I stopped going outside alone and would only venture outside with one of my guy friends, particularly one I've been friends with since middle school. Even their presence doesn't deter him, and it became a store-wide joke. I was weirded out, but not alarmed until he started getting a little more aggressive. He'd ask me if I was seeing anyone, and would ask me out. Pretty much every chance he got. I was playing Grand Theft Auto 5 at the time, so I came up with a story about my scary long-distance boyfriend Trevor from Northern California. Even then, he wasn't fazed. I was really annoyed though and started ignoring him. Now one night when my main guy friend had called in sick and the others were working on something on the opposite side of the store, I went outside with 2 older women in my area. After a few minutes they went inside, and just as I was about to follow them, Walmart creeper suddenly appeared and insisted on going to his car with me. He then literally tries grabbing me by my hand. I rip it away from him and lose it, sprinting inside. I report him to the head manager that night and found out that he had a cousin who worked in there. Apparently he likes to hang out with his cousin. The cousin apologizes profusely. The management's on a whole nother level of crappy and doesn't do anything. They don't even ban him or say anything. I ended up quitting specifically because of this. I found out through a friend that the guy who was still hanging out at the store every night still does this and creeps on other weird women. Apparently he tried like hell to learn my name and where I lived, stalking me for months after. Apparently he was literally constantly upset that I wasn't there before disappearing without a trace. I can't help but think about how crappy the cameras were, and why oh why I couldn't have just had better security and taken me more seriously. So I have a good friend that I work with. I've known her for 15 years, and for the sake of this story, we'll call her M. We work at a restaurant/theatre together, and often after our shift, we go to a local bar to have a drink and a talk. The bar has your usual crowd of guys looking to hit on pretty girls, though, and we often have to tell people to leave us alone. M's not the best though. She can't always do that well. She often gets sucked into having conversations with weirdos if no one is around to rescue her polite awkwardness. This happened to be the case a few nights ago. An older man approaches us and it seems harmless at first. She was alone reading and he was a professor that was drawn to people that seemed to be more intellectual. He claimed to be a regular guy at the bar and just wanted to get out and talk to feel less lonely. She pitied him and decided to be friendly. As the night progressed and he became more intoxicated, he starts saying stranger things, complimenting M, saying things that make her feel weirded out. He mentioned something along the lines of, "I have a lot of money in my bank," and insinuated that it had been obtained illegally. Maybe he secretly sold drugs or something. All I know is that it sounded weird. He's a biochemistry professor too apparently. Doesn't add up. M decided to head out, and she'd hoped that she wouldn't see him at the bar again for a while, but M saw him very shortly thereafter. And not at the bar, but at our restaurant. She mentioned where she had worked to him by accident and forgotten about it. This man came to where she worked without invitation to talk to her. Like I mentioned before, we worked at a restaurant/theatre, and on the day that he came in, she was working at the bar, behind the desk where all the movies are. In order for customers to walk back there, they have to show their tickets. He didn't have a ticket, and he told the ticket man that he was M's uncle coming to say hello. And the ticket man lets him through, not saying anything. He went up to her and started trying to have a casual conversation with her. She was in shock that he found her at work and wondered how he could be there. She politely tries to brush him off and pretended to be busy, hoping he'd leave. He doesn't. He hung around waiting for a minute to talk to her. She tells the managers about it, and one of them came to the rescue, taking him out. Later one night, she was at the bar across the street again, and mentioned to this bartender who didn't seem to be surprised. Apparently, it's not the first time that he's been weird like this when girls are there. He's also done this to other girls, literally following them. Maybe this is just some really old lonely person desperate for money or companionship. Maybe he's just socially awkward. But I don't know, it just doesn't seem right pretending you're someone's uncle to try and get closer to them. I hope he doesn't show up again. It's really shook my friend up and I don't like it. I work as a cashier at a grocery store, and nothing about this night would have stuck out to me if it wasn't for this event. I had till 7 PM to close shift, and the store closed at 12 AM. I clock in, and everything's the same old. However, early in my shift, I had a younger guy, probably mid-20s, come in. He grabs a soda from the cooler. Nothing special that sticks out in my mind. So my break time comes around 9 PM. I go to the back to lock out, and then head out. I go to call my boyfriend at the time, and as I'm walking out, I saw the same younger guy that I rang up the soda for over an hour ago at the lottery ticket machine. Okay, whatever. He's bored. It's not uncommon to see the same customer coming back for a second time. I make my call, and my brake's about to go up, so I clock back in. I get on my lane and look over to the lottery machine, and he's gone. Fast forward about 30 minutes before closing. I'm cleaning up. And guess who I see over at the same machine? Yep, shady soda guy. We make brief eye contact and he walks out the store. Over the next 15 minutes, I get so busy cleaning and making sure that the store is ready for the day shift that I forget all about the soda guy. Time to clock out, so I do so. I usually wait and walk out with the office checker and the security guard, but on this particular shift, I don't know the security guard and don't care too much for the office checker on duty, so I walk out without waiting. As I get out, I head to my minivan. As per company policy, I had to park at the end of the lot so customers can get closer to the store. As I make it halfway to my van, I see a weird blacked out car taking up 2 spaces in front of my van. And there's another in the distance. I start walking up faster with my key in hand. As I get closer to the car, I see 4 people in the car, then 2 doors open, and somebody steps out, wearing all black, the soda guy. By the grace of God, or whatever you believe in, before they fully got out the car, the security officer checker come walking out of the store, and they quickly get back in their car, literally speeding off. I don't even see a license plate. The security guard stopped and looked at me like he didn't know what was going on. I was freaking out, so rushed the rest of the way home, crying my eyes out. My brain, even after all these years, doesn't know how to process this. Was I overreacting? Was I about to be abducted? I still don't like thinking about it because it makes me tear up.